Welcome to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County, and this show is about Plymouth County real estate. Our headline for the month is Sales and Mortgages Remains Stagnant. So we're going to go to the numbers of recordings, and they're very low historically because the market, since the rates went up, has really gone down. However, there were 672 sales, deeds, recorded in June, more than the 637 recorded in May, 18% less than last year's 815, and year-to-date, we're down 8%. You're going to see a list of all of the communities in Plymouth County. There are 27, one city, 26 towns, and as you can see, there are sales everywhere. Plymouth and Brockton lead the way, but every community has had sales of property. Mortgages have been really affected by interest rates, so they're struggling a little bit compared to past years. There are 1,125 mortgages recorded in June, less than the 1,151 in May, and 11% less than the 1,269 in June of last year. And year-to-date, we're down 6%. So people always wonder about foreclosures, and those are pretty low too, particularly historically. There are only 6 foreclosure deeds for the entire Plymouth County in June, the same as the 6 in May, 50% less than the 12 in June of last year, but up 5% this year. Foreclosure notices are always a good way to track where we stand. And clearly, 42 foreclosure notices in June, less than the 71 in May. That's a good trend. Down 18% compared to last June, where there were 59 notices. You're going to see an image of all the foreclosure notices in per town, all the notices and deeds. If for some reason you're finding yourself in difficulty paying your loan, whether it be loss of income, medical issues, reach out to our Federal Housing Council and NeighborWorks, and they can try to help you find a way out of the problem, possibly with a modification. Beware that there's a free property fraud alert on our website. If you go to it, sign in, put in your email, and then anything that's recorded against your property, you'll get an email, and you can check out whether it's something that should have been recorded, like a discharge, or something more troublesome. Beware of all the scams out there in real estate. I have a great guest coming in the next segment, Cindy Pendergast of NeighborWorks, and a fellow also from NeighborWorks that has been there a long time and is making his move to retirement. But I thought he'd be able to tell some good stories about his time at NeighborWorks. So we'll see you in the next segment. Welcome back to the Register's Report. My name is John Buckley. I'm the Register of Deeds of Plymouth County. In this segment of the show, we've always done something educational in nature. We've had surveyors, appraisers, many realtors, and many different people involved in the real estate community. And certainly, NeighborWorks has been a great part of it, and the new name is
NeighborWorks Housing Solutions.
NeighborWorks Housing Solution. So 2 of the people here have both been guests before. Cindy's been a guest multiple times, Cindy Pendergast and Joe Medaio was one of my original guests way back in the early days of the show. But I know Joe was making a move, so we figured we'd just come in, talk a little bit about your experience, how you've seen NeighborWorks grow, and Cindy will talk about what NeighborWorks does right now. So when did you start in open? First of all, talk about your banking career, because all the banks that I know, many of them have gone away.
Actually, that's true. My most recent banking experience was with Crescent Credit Union,
Okay.
which is now Sharon Crescent. Okay, they merged.
Yeah.
Okay, but I came down here in 1981. Okay, to work for Plymouth Home National
Sure.
Bank. Okay, that's when you and I met.
Right?
Okay.
Yeah.
You were an intern at City Hall or the
No, I was probably at that point I was worked for the Chamber of Commerce,
Chamber of Commerce.
and
Yeah.
then later went over to work for the mayor.
That's when we met.
Yeah, right.
Okay. And then
Those were good days.
yeah, that's and then later on we moved to Abington. I met your family. Your sister lived across the street from us, and got to know your family pretty well, including your dad, who was a great guy. Okay, really super guy. And but okay, let's talk about NeighborWorks. I joined NeighborWorks 16 years ago, okay, as a foreclosure counselor. The only things that we were doing at the time that I started working with them was we were doing home buyer education and foreclosure assistance. And we just started doing foreclosure assistance. That's why I was hired. And I remember Norm Grenier
Yeah.
calling me up and say, "You want to come to work as a foreclosure counselor?" And I said, "I don't know anything about that." And he said, "Neither do we. We're all going to learn
Oh, I
together."
remember those days.
Yeah, and fast forward a little bit, Cindy came to work for us. When did you come to work?
It's been since 2010.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Yeah, so
yeah, almost 15 years.
You were there during the foreclosure meltdown.
foreclosure
7 and 8.
meltdown, and I would be remiss in saying that you were stalwart in terms of helping us out, because one of the things that you did was you helped us to get to the people who were having problems. Okay, you were helping us get to people who were getting their foreclosure notices, and we created what Cindy and I were talking about earlier today as a best practice. So you would be sending out the notice, then you would be giving us the names and addresses, stickers, and would be sending them out a communication from us telling them that we could give them help.
Yep.
And that went a long way for all of us to be helping people in the community. And it wasn't just Brockton, it was
Right.
all of Plymouth County.
Those were tough times.
They
I
were
remember
very tough times.
Brian Moriarty at the
Brian
time
Moriarty
was in charge,
yeah,
of the
Brian
program.
Brian was the Cindy at the time.
We ran foreclosure workshops,
Yeah.
and we did one over at Massasoit, and people were outside the door down the block.
Yeah.
And then we did
Yes.
another one over at the Unknown School.
Mm-hmm.
They were out the door down Belmont Street.
We had over 400, almost 500 people
Right.
in one Saturday.
Right?
Yep.
People coming in looking for help. Yeah.
Terrible times.
Yeah.
Terrible time is right. And I think that we really were on record as saying that we saved a lot of people, as
Right.
I'm sure that there's a lot of people out.
And thankfully, a lot of laws were changed after that relative to what mortgage brokers could do. They had to be licensed, they had to be trained, and they really had to. There were things in place that they couldn't do what they did before. No income loans.
That's right.
And our assistants, we were, the state also came in with assistance programs. And so at
Yes.
one point, NeighborWorks was awarded, I think in 2011, under Patrick's administration, Deval Patrick, the highest award in the state to assist folks in I think it was a 23rd in the nation, for foreclosure relief. And that's when I was hired in 2010 just to provide
Sure.
admin support. Yeah. Just temporary. Now it's been almost 15 years, but our partnership has been ongoing since those times, and we appreciate it.
Every show, I said, look, if you're in trouble, call this group, and they'll at least try to help you find out what your problem is, see if there's a potential to get a modification
Right.
or any kind of fix. Otherwise, people just wait around and
Yeah.
let the end result happen.
Or they pay somebody for
Yeah,
help,
right.
and I think
And
that's
that
just a
was
shame.
terrible.
Right.
There's free counseling available if you're in any kind of mortgage distress or housing distress.
So those are probably some of your highlights of your time at NeighborWorks.
Well, I would say if I could interject, one of the highlights I think of Joe, definitely strategic in foreclosure prevention, first-time homebuyer ed, but also he ran the VITA program,
Oh,
volunteer
right. I remember
tax
that.
assistance. So we did tax returns for 10 years,
Wow.
no charge. And it helped a lot of people, especially those on fixed incomes or low income, to get free tax preparation, but also many seniors, for example, didn't know about the circuit breaker. So we were able to tell them about that. And maybe you could say what that is, Joe.
The circuit breaker?
Yeah.
Yeah, state of Massachusetts offers some additional help to seniors,
Homeowners.
okay. Well, it's not
It
just
isn't-
homeowners,
it is
it's renters
renters
too as well,
okay.
who can get them additional
Return.
additional income on their return through the circuit breaker program. I don't know why they come up with the term circuit breaker.
Right.
It's kind of a misnomer, but it basically allowed them to get some additional monies on their return, on the state return. So, but yeah, we were responsible for doing probably initially through Harbor One, but then NeighborWorks took it over after Harbor One decided that they didn't want to do it anymore. Harbor One was concerned about having lines of people outside the bank.
Right.
Okay, so NeighborWorks took it over, and we probably did, I want to say, 5,000 to 6,000 worth, 5,000 to 6,000 tax returns over the period of time that we were doing it. We're doing it at the library. We're doing it at Harbor One. We ended up doing it, in
Randolph.
our offices. Okay, and it was only because of the pandemic that we stopped doing it, because we could no longer. We were doing it face to face, and we couldn't do it any longer after
Right.
COVID.
Right.
So.
But you also were one of the early people involved with the Brockton Housing Partnership.
I was in the Brockton Housing Partnership when I was in the banking profession. So actually, that's how I ended up meeting Norm and ended up coming to work for NeighborWorks. Okay, so
It's been a great collaborative.
yes, the partnership. Cindy is actually the
chair.
chair now.
Right.
So
Yep.
and Brian was the chair for a while. So
And you were the treasurer.
I was a treasurer.
Definitely partnerships all
Yeah.
around for
Right.
sure. Yeah.
I was the treasurer of the Downtown Brockton Association and the treasurer of the Housing Partnership for years.
I remember.
So,
I remember.
so now I'm just going to stay home and spend some time with Sheila
And the grandkids.
and the
Well,
grandkids.
well deserved.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Now let's talk about your organization today.
yeah.
It's modified over the years. Thankfully, there's not quite as much foreclosure work, although you continue
Right.
to do those on opportunities to help people.
Sure. So the foreclosure crisis definitely, we don't see the same type of crisis with, a bad loan or things like that, but things happen, with people's mortgage, loss of income or increase of expenses, things like that. So that service is still ongoing, but we also do robust first-time homebuyer education, financial coaching. We do a lot of support for anybody that's in a housing crisis. So we operate the residential assistance for families in transition, the RAFT program. So in our Brockton office, we have staff that work in person, so we take walk-ins, which is the majority of, it's an online program, that the state, has designed, but that's just part of, some of the work that we do. You mentioned partnerships, and I can't not mention our partnership with Harbor One. So they opened up office space for us back at the beginning. So they said, you need space to meet with clients, here's some cubicles. And so that started a partnership back when we first opened. And
are you allowed to talk about
I am.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
So the partnership has deepened over the years, and to the point where now we've actually just purchased the building that we're in at 68 Legion Parkway. So that was the original main branch of Harbor One, and before they opened up their Oak Street office. And so NeighborWorks has purchased the bank building, and I will relieve everybody's stress to wonder what's going to happen to the bank. So the bank will always stay, and then it'll be NeighborWorks. The bank will be our tenants, NeighborWorks offices, and eventually, I would say, at a minimum, 2 years from now, we'll start construction. We'll take the old building down and rebuild.
Really?
So we'll rebuild it, and it'll include 50 units of apartments above.
Wow.
So we're going to create more housing downtown with a focus on middle income and lower income households. And I'm sure there'll be some market as well. But that mixed income, is the way to go, because just to serve the needs of the community.
So government has always trusted NeighborWorks with grants and verifying people to receive money, and I notice there's a new one just announced relative to small businesses.
So there's small business assistance, and so that is, thank you for mentioning that. Yeah. That's one of the other services that we offer is small business counseling. So we have a designated staff that will provide technical assistance and training to help small businesses, understand how to start their business, and we offer education and counseling one-on-one, but also will help them to get lined up with grant assistance to start their business. So all that information's on our website, and but yeah, we're excited to be part of that too, because that's the strength of our community, right? It's about businesses, it's about residents, and how the two work together to stabilize our whole society, but especially in Brockton.
So for me, having gone through many different cycles of the market, we talked about a couple of them, my number one concern is for first-time home buyers.
Right.
And I know you've had some programs over the years to try to get them. It's really difficult in this current environment with no inventory and high interest loans.
Right. So we always get that question, is it the right time to buy? Should I wait? And so what we usually say to folks is, if this is the time when you want to buy, then get into your home, if you can. When people take first-time homebuyer class with NeighborWorks, we not only give them the education that they need, but we also support them with information about where they could get down payment assistance loans and also other opportunities to help them fill that gap of that initial deposit, that initial down payment that they need. But yeah, the interest rates when we bought, my first loan was 10, 12%, you know, but then we live through it, you refinance out of it, you know, but you know, we help people have the best next steps, you know, what's going to make the most sense for them, and help them to buy with wisdom and knowledge, to go into it with, you know, in the best position that they can be.
So, want to just tell our viewers a little bit what happens at your training sessions?
Sure.
First-time home buyers?
So our home buyer training, all the information's on our website, how to sign up and register, but we have a hybrid model. So when people sign up and pay, they get a login to do the first part of their training is online. So they go through modules and they get all the baseline information about what's it look like to buy a home, you know, from start to finish, the steps. And then once they're done with the online section, they're going to choose a group session. And that's either going to be on Zoom or in person, depending on the date that they choose. So in that group session, they're going to hear from a local lender and a local realtor. And they're going to give them the education about what loan products are out there. You know, Mass Housing and the Massachusetts Housing Partnership, for example, are the state's 2 affordable loan products. They're not going to hear about those loan products from an online lender. You know, it's a local lender that's going to connect them with those. So we educate them on loan products. They can ask questions. We have a realtor come up and explain about what's that process once they get their pre-approval, and then what it looks like when they go looking at homes. And so we give them that local information. And then once they're done with their group session, they're going to have a one-on-one session with a counselor. It's usually over the phone, but we go over an action plan with them and give them their next steps, their own individual next steps. And then we help them be as ready as they can be. If there's an issue, an obstacle, such as credit, if their credit needs to have some work, we'll put them with a financial coaching. All of our counselors are trained at financial coaching. And so we help them address those obstacles and overcome them and get them as ready as they can be.
So I know you're based in Brockton, but let's talk about your service area.
Sure. So we have offices from Quincy all the way down to the south coast to the bridge. So Quincy, Brockton, Taunton, Kingston, Fall River, New Bedford, and Attleboro. So we have service area all around the southeastern Mass. And so it's a large service area. We serve a lot of people, and we're excited about the work that we do in our region.
Right.
John, we also have, and one of the things that I've been doing over the last couple of years is we offer a landlord training program. So if someone's interested in buying multifamilies, we actually have a program where we can talk to them about what they need to know to buy a multifamily, okay? You know, how do you screen tenants, what you need to know, the laws in Massachusetts about dealing with tenants and things of that nature, you know, security deposits,
Last month, right?
you know,
That's
all of those
important.
kinds of things. Okay, so, you know, if someone is interested in buying a multifamily as opposed to a single family, they can take a program that will basically deal with those kinds of issues as well.
Teach them how to run their business.
Right.
Yeah.
No, that's important.
I'm glad you
Yes,
brought
There's
it
so
up.
many landlords that try to do everything on their own, and they don't.
Yeah.
They get caught up in.
And a lot of the lenders are requiring that now
Oh,
too.
that's
great.
They're basically saying, if
That's
you're
great.
buying a multifamily, we want you to take
Right.
we want you to get a certification for a multifamily program.
So you talked a little bit about your future. Anything else you want to add, Cindy?
I would just like to add one thing, that we offer our services in multi-language. So I think that's important to recognize that our community is diverse. And so we have diverse staff that can meet people and, you know, where they're at with in their
Right.
language, so it's not a barrier. So,
Great. No, that's important these days.
Yep.
Great.
So,
So thank you very much for your service for all of us.
Thanks, John.
Yes.
Thank you for the work you do.
Oh, thank you for the partnership, John.
Yeah, and
Appreciate you.
we all want to work together going forward because we have to.
Yeah.
You know, it's a challenging world out there,
Yeah.
and
It is.
we want to help people.
Yes.
Thank you very much for
Absolutely.
being on the show.
So thank you, John.
Great,
Appreciate you.
John, thank you.
great.
It's been great working with you.
Thanks. In this segment of the show, segment 3, we talk about some of our holidays for the month, some of our great history, and some of our stories of colonial times past. But I first want to thank Cindy Pendergast and Joe Medallo for the great job they did in summarizing the work of NeighborWorks. So Independence Day was on the 4th, our 4th of July. World Chocolate Day was the 7th. National Pecan Pie Day on the 12th. Mac and Cheese Day on the 14th. National Hot Dog Day coming up, and National Ice Cream Day on the 20th. But I want to talk about a couple of our beautiful beaches in Plymouth County. So let's go right to Duxbury Beach. Duxbury Beach is a beautiful white sand beach, 6 miles long, owned by the Duxbury Beach Association. It is a barrier beach, and you have access to it either going through Marshfield or going over the wooden Powder Point Bridge, originally built in 1892. It's a barrier beach that serves recreational, scenic, conservation, and as a breakwater for the towns of Duxbury, Kingston, and Plymouth. It's beautiful, beautiful salt marshes, and has a number of wildlife and birds, many that are protected, and it will continue to be one of Plymouth County's most wonderful places. The next Plymouth County record is another beach, Gray's Beach Park, which is in the town of Kingston. It's one of Kingston's best loved places. It's a 6.5 acre park, a lot of shade, tennis courts, basketball hoops, and public access to the beach. It's on land from the 17th century, owned by Edward Gray. He arrived in our new world in 1643, became a very wealthy man, and did shipbuilding and owned wharfs in the shoreline of Rocky Nook. And in 1936, the town began to provide residents with access to the waterfront. Town meeting over the years have been very supportive of promoting it. And a bathhouse was built in 1950, and it's a beautiful spot for everyone in that area. And again, on a hot day like today, would be a good retreat. And another one of our well-known county records is Shirtlift Park. It is a park on Route 58 in Carver. Goes back to 1900s, owned by Carlton Shirtlift Francis, one of the original founders of Carver, Benjamin Shirtlift, owned it, and it's been a Carver landmark ever since for picnicking, fairs, band concerts, and more memorably, they run Carver's Old Home Day there. The first Old Home Day was run in 1901 at the First Baptist Church adjacent to the park. There was a hurricane that destroyed some of that territory. Pine trees were planted again, so it's a very shady spot. In late July, Old Home Day brings hundreds of former Carver residents. They run a road race in an old-fashioned clam bake. If you have not gone there, I advise you to look it up online the end of July and take a ride over there. And last but not least, one of our Plymouth Colony records. Since the Plymouth 400, we've been promoting our Plymouth Colony records. Plymouth Colony was the location where Mayflower passengers first came in 1620. They kept a lot of very good records, including laws and land records. But in 1646, the colonial court ordered a record relative to taverns. They called them victual houses or ordinaries. And if you violated the rules and you drank too much and you got drunk, you had to pay a fine. And if you violated a rule and it was a response of the tavern keeper, they also had to pay fines. And if they could not pay the fines, they were set in the stocks for a period of time for public humiliation for everyone to see. So I want to thank Christine Richards and Lorna Green from my office for helping me put this show together. I want to thank Michelle Hebsche and Curtis Reese for helping me with this show together. Hope you have a good summer going forward. I'll see you in the month of August, and be safe. Thank you.